Ooh, welcome everybody to WagerTalk Today. I'm Lawrence Prez and Teddy Covers is my co-host. I'm in a great mood. We got a wonderful show lined up. Ralph Michaels right off the top. He's going to look at a college football game. Very high-profile game. It'll be on ABC twice, 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. Georgia Southern against Old Dominion. Then he's going to look at the Vikings and the Rams. We had Ronald Kabang on yesterday, gave out the over in that game. Let's hear what Ralph has to say. And he's also got a chart for us in the NFL over and unders by month and surface. Skee Profit joining us. NBA is underway. He's got 3 future bets for us. And we're going to end the show with Art DiCesare. Teddy Covers! How are you, my friend?
I'm doing all right. Big game breakdown today is going to be Kansas versus Kansas State, the Sunflower Showdown in college football. And in What Bettors Learned, we'll talk about which teams I'm focused on at the very beginning of this NBA season. So, loaded Wednesday edition. Sit back, relax, and let's give you some actionable information.
You got it. So while Dan was counting down the show starting 5, 4, 3, I was responding to Port Smith. The NFL presidential address is up. 5,000 of you have already watched. 54 comments. And Port Smith writes, this dude is working for Vegas, beware. So I was literally typing in the whole city. They pull their money together. You got the notice, right? You live in Vegas. You pulled your money in to send to me, right?
I did not, Lawrence.
Teddy! The whole city of Vegas is supposed to be pulling their money together and sending it to me, right? Ralph Michaels, when you used to live in Vegas, did you get the note every year, send Prez the money?
All I know is that when I talked to Chris Andrews at South Point and Derek Stevens at Circa, they said they can't post a line without talking to Prez. So I don't know what's...
Yeah. Well said. You look good, Ralph. Love having you with us. How are you, my friend? How is your... college football, NFL going, and the weather in Florida? What's going on?
Everything's great. I did have a poor college football Saturday last week. I went 6-6, but I went 2-6 on Saturday. So have to bounce back from that. And the important thing to remember is this, guys. After you win or after you lose, always analyze those games. Would I make this decision again? And that's what I do after every weekend. And despite having a bad weekend, I felt comfortable with those plays and I'd use them again. Things happened and we lost. That's part of betting.
That it is. So let's talk Georgia Southern right off the bat. They are +2 against Old Dominion. As I said at the top of the show, this is so high profile, they're going to run it twice on TV. Tell us how to bet this one.
Now, I am on Georgia Southern. But I'm going to start off with a negative first. It's Old Dominion. I have a buy sign on this Old Dominion team. I'm not going to get there this week, but for the rest of the season, I'll be looking at them. Old Dominion is one of the teams that had the most new players in college football. They had 57 new players this year, which is number 14. By the way, the team with the most was North Texas with 77 new players.
Wow.
Old Dominion also had a quarterback that started the first 3 games. What did they do? They put up 19, 14, and 17 points. They lost all 3. They went to Colton Joseph at quarterback. He is a running quarterback. In his 3.5 starts, he already leads the team in rushing with 6.7 yards per carry. The negative is this. They're off a big win. They beat Texas State last week. And when we look at college football teams off a double-digit win upset, and they're at home the next week, only 41-70, 37% against the spread. When we look at Georgia Southern, they're a team. Their only 2 losses this year against Boise State, a game they covered, and at Ole Miss, where they got run over. But that's fine. They were playing Georgia State in their Sun Belt opener the next week, and they handled them easily with a 17-point win. I look at conference strength of schedule. Georgia Southern has played a tougher Sun Belt schedule than Old Dominion by 7 spots. Not huge, 77-84. But when you look at yards per game diff and yards per play diff, despite playing the tougher schedule, Georgia Southern, number 23 and number 39. Old Dominion, number 68 and 77. So significant edges for Georgia Southern. When I look at Old Dominion, their defense has been on the field a lot. In the last 2 games, the defense has been on the field for 74 and 73 plays. Georgia Southern is a very up-tempo team with Clay Helton in his 3rd year. In fact, in conference, they are number 4 running plays per game. They will have pace, and being on a short week, I think that truly helps them. Finally, when you look at Georgia Southern, teams that allowed 17 or fewer points, and they are now a small favorite or a dog with less than 5 days rest on the road, so you're on a short week, those teams have actually gone 71% against the spread since 2015. I like Old Dominion moving forward in this spot in their first ever home game on Thursday night. It will be crazy, but that does also add pressure. Give me Georgia Southern on Thursday.
ESPN Plus Thursday night. I want to ask you, when you look at a team like Old Dominion, they've got 3 outright upsets, including a plus 11 dog where they won outright. And as you mentioned last week, they won outright as 10.5-point dogs. They also beat Georgia State a couple of weeks ago as 3-point dogs, winning that game by a touchdown. So when you have a team that is clearly overperforming to where they're being power rated, how hesitant are you to step in front of them? Because that's kind of what we're doing here.
Well, Teddy, my numbers still have Georgia Southern. I have the game as Georgia Southern as a small favorite, a 1-point favorite, so not much. And I have adjusted Old Dominion quite a bit. So again, you're trying to make the call when the right time is to fade and when the right time is to jump on. The short week, the upset win, them excited as they were the last few weeks. To me, I am going to fade them this week. Next week, they go to App State, then they finish with James Madison Marshall and Arkansas State. We'll see what happens moving forward, but they are on my radar.
Ralph Michaels joining us. Ralph, we got a Thursday night football game. The Vikings playing the Rams. The line has been bet down to -2.5 of the Vikings. Teddy started this week discussing this game, felt the Rams were the bet. Ronald Cabang came on yesterday, really liked the over. We are now going to get your opinion, and I'm sure tomorrow we will discuss this game again. Tell us how Ralph Michaels will bet the Vikings-Rams game.
Well, I am on the Vikings. I don't mind the line move. And let's remember this. We have 2 very, very similar teams. You know, O'Connell was the OC at the LA Rams. They both use 11 offense. Neither team uses many different formations. I went and looked at what the formations were, guys, just to give you an idea. The team that's used the fewest unique lineups this year is Atlanta. They've only used 51 unique lineups. The Rams are number 2, Minnesota are number 4. So both coordinators, both head coaches know exactly what the other team wants to do. By the way, just to give you a comparison, Atlanta has used 51 unique lineups. Miami has used 224. So when you talk about young kids on football teams having to learn 224 plays for Miami or playing for Minnesota and the Rams or Atlanta and having to use very few plays, there is a transition period there. I look at Minnesota. They're one of the healthiest teams this season. They have only used 54 players on offense, defense, and special teams. Kansas City is the healthiest team, even though they've had some issues. They've only used 53 players. So we have a healthy team off their first loss of the season that is 5-1 ATS against a Ram team that has covered only 1 game this season. When I look at the teams, does Minnesota have a bubble burst after their first loss? Well, let me give you a couple examples of why not. Week 7 and later, when teams have a win percentage over 65%, and they're off a loss as a home favorite, those teams have gone 34-18 against the spread. That is 65.4%. And if they're on the road, like they are this week, that is a 72% ATS system. Thursday, favorites off a loss as a home favorite are just as good. We are talking about 69% and 74% if they're an away favorite. So I like the situation. I like what Minnesota's done. And also, Minnesota is takeaway savvy this year. They have 14 takeaways. That's number 2 in the country. And when you look at takeaways, you have to make sure you divide. Fumble takeaways are much more random. When teams fumble, it's basically a 50-50. If you're picking the ball off, that means your defense is playing well, and that can be sustained. Of the Minnesota turnovers, 11 interceptions and 3 fumbles. I do think Minnesota bounces back. I do think the Rams are in a situation we might see them get cut back. But again, this is a team that is averaging 308 yards per game, and they're getting outgained by 47 yards per game. I'm a purple people eater on Thursday with the Minnesota Vikings.
So, Ralph, I want to ask you about the database real quick, because you came up with a couple of numbers from the database that, to me, I wasn't convinced that they apply, but that's not the number I was looking for. I want to know what a team does after their first loss. If they've won, let's say, 5 or more to open the season and they lose 1, as opposed to a team that's 65% winning percentage or more off a loss. You see what I'm saying? Do you have any numbers like that?
You are, Teddy. I did look it up, and it was 46.8%, where the team is off their first loss after at least 5 games. So, yes, there's a mini bubble burst here. But again, in this situation, and to be honest with you, I think it's actually advantage. Losing to Detroit by two points on a last-second field goal, being on the road on a short week where you can't worry about the loss, I think that actually helps them.
Ralph Michaels, Teddy Covers. You're watching WagerTalk Today. Unknown entity, one of our most awesomest listeners, watchers, viewers. He writes, I've been watching since 50,000 subscribers. We're now at 181,000 subscribers, everyone. Let's get to 200,000. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so. The amount of sports betting content is second to none. It's never ending. From the early morning show with Zeno and Power to Puck Time to Wager Talk Today. We got college football, NBA, college basketball shows, and a million daily videos. Teddy's opening line report, the NFL presidential address. Please make sure to subscribe to our channel. And of course, Ralph and Teddy Bet on It, a show that both of you are on, and our flagship weekly NFL show. Okay, also, hit the thumbs up button. Teddy, show us how to do that. No, that way. There we go. Ralph, you got a chart for us, brother. Let's get right into that.
Well, this is one of my annual charts, guys. You know, I probably have done it the last 2 years, and it's this. Back in the 80s and 90s, when most of you probably weren't even born, there was a huge discrepancy between grass and turf because the turfs were good, the turfs were bad, the grasses weren't as good as they are now. But I just wanted to show you, simply, if we look at over-unders on grass versus artificial turf since 2015, there is a 2% difference where grass games have gone under the total by 2% more. But take a look at the month by month. In September, when the weather's great, grass games over 50.7%. When the weather starts turning, the field starts getting chunked up. You have back-to-back games with horrible conditions. October, November, and December, all 46.4% or less to the over. And take a look on the flip side, artificial turfs. October 50.7, December 50.5, January 50.9. So I'm never going to base a total on grass or turf, but it's certainly something to keep in mind if the game is that in that gray area, whether you want to pull the trigger or not.
And of course, we're talking about a significant sample size here, every game since 2015. So Ralph has the data. That's why he is the stat daddy of them all. Ralph Michaels, what do you have to promote, my friend? What's going on? I know it's Fill Your Cart Wednesday at WagerTalk.com. What do you have for all of those who want to fill their cart today?
Well, I actually passed on the Wednesday card. I'll be doing my NBA after. I like to get 2 or 3 games under my belt. But I do have a Thursday game loaded. Do not buy that game. It's the Minnesota Vikings. But I am loading an NFL 5% play later today. So it's a great time to take advantage. And guys, the other special we have, I just want to mention it. Again, today's Fill Your Cart. But the $249 special for 30 days. There's college football, NFL, NBA, NHL, college basketball starts in a few weeks. The most action-packed month. A great special, but again, today's Fill Your Card as well.
Ralph, get out of here, brother. Thank you for joining us. Teddy covers lots more happening. We've got Skee Profit coming on with three NBA future bets. We also have Art DiCesare at the end of the show, who will talk to him about what happened last week in the NFL and college football, what to do this coming week, and also what type of bets he's taking in the NBA. So, brother, before we get into what did bettors learn, a couple of quick things from my end. Firstly, yesterday was $5 Tuesday, and to give you guys perspective of our business, and you know, Teddy, we're pretty open about our business. People, we talk on air. I had 300 customers, 300 individual people purchased my $5 play yesterday. It was on Nashville on the money line. It was a 4% play, my first NHL 4% of the year, and it cashed easily. I went 2-0 for my clients yesterday, and the penalty box segment went 3-1. Sorry to interrupt, dude, but I got a 5% coming up on Sunday, and the play is up now, and the line is going to move. I won my 5% on Monday. We got one up on this coming Sunday. It's up now, and I'm going to give out a promo code, and I'm only going to give it out on this show. So if you don't watch this show, you don't get it. Well, you wouldn't even know because you don't watch the show. Kick 10. Kick 10. That's $10 off of my $39 package for Sunday. You'll get my entire NFL Week 8 report. That includes analysis and statistics on every single game on the entire board. To give you guys perspective, I'm even writing there it is, key statistics and trends, etc. Every game on the board is 10 pages of info. Use the promo code KICK10. Okay, dude, I'll shut up now. I know you're rolling your eyes. It's all good. What did bettors learn last night?
Well, let's talk about some of the NBA right now, because 20 of the 30 teams in the NBA will make it to the play-in games or the playoffs. 10 teams do not. And none of those 10 teams likely played last night. When we talk about the 3 tiers of non-playoff teams, we have decent but not good, we have abysmal, and then we have in between. Based on season win totals, here are those teams. There's 11 of them. One's going to make the play-in, maybe 2 if some good team gets hurt like Memphis did last year. But the reality is going into the season, the vast majority of these teams will not make the postseason regardless of what happens. So we have the decent but not good, the Hawks, the Clippers, the Suns, the Spurs. We have the abysmal, the Pistons, the Nets, the Blazers, the Wizards. We have the in-between, the Hornets, the Bulls, the Raptors, the Jazz. These are absolutely the team I'm focused on the first week of the season. Betting markets, the major media, they don't pay any attention to any of these teams. The bad ones, they can be bet against from day one, like the Carolina Panthers or the New England Patriots in the NFL. The good ones are going to make you money because they're not supposed to be good, like, the Washington Commanders or the Minnesota Vikings in the NFL. Most importantly, the spotlight isn't shining on any of these teams. So these are the type of teams you can bet on or bet against again and again and again for the first few weeks of the season. Pay attention early, make money. Sometimes it really is that simple. Lawrence?
Teddy, I got a quick question for you, and then we'll bring Skee on. Out of curiosity, and the reason I asked this is yesterday I gave out the Sabres as a free pick on the show, and they won. And I mentioned that it wasn't, I got a bunch of guys, way to go, Prez, great call on the Sabres. I didn't bet on the Sabres yesterday. I bet against the Dallas Stars. My question to you is, do you bet on teams more often than betting against teams? I bet against teams. I'm almost never looking to bet on a particular team. I'm looking to find spots to bet against teams. How do you approach that?
The answer is both. Absolutely both. They're both pieces of the equation.
It is both.
Finding a good bet, and especially for the NBA. In the NBA, I'm not. There are guys that spend their lives just talking about spot. I don't worry about spots as much as some of the other handicappers. I worry about a long-term value. Is this team being mispriced? And that gets you on some huge runs. Last year, I think I bet the Houston Rockets like 20 home games in a row or something crazy like that. And they cashed again and again and again and again for me in that role. And when you find these roles, the earlier you find them, the more money you make in the NBA. That's all I'm looking for the first couple of weeks of the season.
Yeah, and that's fair. You're right. I do a bit of both. I mean, I'm always looking to bet against teams, but then I have to want to bet on the team in the first place when betting against that team. Skee Profit is incredible in the NBA. I mean, one of the best out there, period. And a guy that has his whole life in front of him, unlike you and I. Skee, how do you approach that? Are you betting against teams, on teams, or sort of combining it?
Well, I appreciate the kind words, first of all. And I do a little bit of both, I think. I have spots where I absolutely want to fade teams. And then there's some times where I want to ride a streak. I'm not, I don't do it as much as Teddy. Teddy, I think I remember you talking to me about that Rockets team last year when we were sitting at, we might have been sitting at South Point. And they sure enough went on that run. I remember. Yeah. So Teddy's really good at that. And I do a little bit of both myself.
Well, we love having you on, brother. Now that NBA is in full swing, hopefully you'll be joining us every couple of weeks. So, Skee, you got some future bets for us. So let's start with the Golden State Warriors. Here's a veteran team that is really getting old. And they've had some turnover. And you still like them to go over 43.5 wins on their win total. Teddy, what is so funny?
Because you have no idea about the Golden State Warriors. You've done no work on the Golden State Warriors, and it showed with your question. So your best thing to do is to just say, Golden State Warriors, season win total 43.5, instead of talking about stuff you don't know about.
Dude, have you seen my record in NBA? Thank you for allowing me to promote my record in NBA. I'm up 95 units over the last 2 years in NBA. Been one of the most profitable handicappers out there. I know the sport like Teddy knows his hair. And I will be killing it again. Happy to bet against you in NBA anytime you want. And with that said, I consider you an NBA betting god. So that's how good I think I am. Skee.
Yeah, you're 95 units. I'm up 221 units.
Yeah, I know. You're a god. I am telling people that you're a betting god in the NBA. I have no problem with that.
The clock is
Skee, let's go.
It's okay because I'm I'm not long-winded, so I guess it'll be okay.
For sure, bro.
But Warriors, their win total is at 43.5. They had 46 wins last year, and the departures, I'm not really worried about it. I don't think Chris Paul was a great fit for this team. They just really had to get off of Jordan Poole. Clay, I know last year for sure things were a bit soured. He was unhappy. And it just didn't look like, the vibe was the same usual Warriors vibe. Now, you have Buddy Hield, who can pretty much do the same thing Clay does. It's no drop-off. The only thing is finding that chemistry. You look at Kyle Anderson. In my mind, he can take on sort of a Draymond role, being a little bit of a playmaker off the screen, etc., and making the good passes. So I like what they've done in the offseason as far as additions. I even like Melton. And they're tied for the league best net rest. One thing I'll say is you did mention some players getting older. I know Steph only missed 8 games last year, so we will need some more injury luck because if Steph is out, this total is not going to make it. But as long as he's on the court with the talent that they have, I don't see, why they can't get back to the 46 wins that they had last year. So I like it over 43.5.
Skee, talking about over. So the Milwaukee Bucks are the oldest team in the league at 28 years old on average. Below that is the LA Clippers at 28.03. And below that sits the Golden State Warriors, the third oldest team in the NBA.
It's funny. I was just looking at the roster. I'm like, geez, I didn't realize that freaking Gary Payton was on the wrong side of 30 and Kyle Anderson was on the wrong side of 30 and Buddy Hield's on the wrong side of 30.
Teddy, apologize.
Okay, I was wrong. You were right. You're the best. Still made me laugh.
Skee, let's go to the.
I was wrong.
Go ahead, Teddy.
You were right, Lawrence. I was wrong. Let's talk.
Okay, let's go. Indiana Pacers. Yeah. I took the over last year as a 5% on my as a future bet with my clients. I like them again over here too. Where are you going?
That was a great call by you to take them over last year. This year we have a win total of 46.5. They had made it to 47 last year, and they still have the same players. Like, they have the same continuity. They only lost Jalen Smith, and that was the guy who already had kind of fallen out of the rotation. The only addition I think that they made was Wiseman, and he still, has a lot of potential. And I think that this is the team that can bring it out of them. You look at their schedule, top 5 easiest, and I want to look at last year a little bit too. For as good as they did, Halliburton was battling injuries throughout the entire year. The only reason he continued to play was because he had to play a certain amount of games in order, for contract reasons, to get some more money. They lost Mathurin. He was hurt throughout the year. If you have these guys healthy with the continuity that they had last year, I think they're more than capable of getting right back to where they were last year with 47 wins. The pace that they play with makes it difficult for opponents, especially when they're in schedule spots. So I like the Pacers a lot. I like the coach, Rick Carlisle. I think 47 wins is not a tough ask.
It feels like there's betting market disrespect a little bit for Indiana. Like last year was sort of a fluke season. Are you getting that same feel? I know that you got your ear to the ground. It feels to me, everyone I talked about the Pacers was like, yeah, but, so, oh, no, Indiana, yeah, but. It feels like the last year's results, people feel like it was fluky, and Indiana's poised to take a step back this year. I don't agree with it. Clearly you don't. But I'm curious if you've seen that.
Yeah, and I understand because, it's not a team that you're used to seeing consistently making runs like that. But they made me personally a believer what they did with the Knicks and even pushing the Celtics. I mean, if they can push the Celtics the way that they did, they can compete with anybody. And the coach that they have is absolutely somebody I trust. So that's why I think that they can repeat it.
Skee Profit, everyone. Bill Sandoval listens to the show at work. And people always ask him when I talk, who's that annoying guy? I love it. Okay. Skee, you got a quick bet for us on the Magic, no follow-up. And after that, please promote.
Sure thing. Well, I like the Magic to win the Southeast Division. This is another young and upcoming team. I love the offseason move to pick up KCP. This is a team that lacks shooting, and he gives them just that. And he also fits what they like to do. He said this is the first team he's been on where everybody wants to play defense. Everybody's, good on that end. So I think that's big for this team. They're young. I don't think we have to worry too much about injuries. They have a top 5 easiest schedule. And just looking at the rest of the division, Miami, really injury prone. Not sure, how much we can trust a lot of those guys on that roster to stay healthy throughout. And I've heard some things, maybe, they could be getting tired of Jimmy Butler and sending him out of there. So between that and, I don't think Atlanta has gotten good enough to take the division. I think it's the Magic's division to lose. So Magic to win at -130 will be my bet in this one. And promo-wise, last 3 years in the association, I picked up just under 235 units, and we started off this season with 3-0 night last night. So I know it's Player Card Wednesday. It's a good chance to get involved.
Yeah, guys, Skee Profit is so good in the NBA, like so good, and a fun handicapper to purchase too because he's high volume and he constantly wins. Brother, thanks for joining us today, man. We'll see you in a couple of weeks back on this show. Teddy
Appreciate you
Covers!
guys.
It's your time for your big game breakdown and then Art DiCesare. And also, Teddy, feel free to pick an NFL game you might want me to take apart in the daily presidential address. Go.
No, I'd rather screw up with calling the Warriors not the oldest team as they are. Let's talk about Kansas and Kansas State. The Sunflower Showdown, Saturday night, ESPN2 in prime time. Looking at the WagerTalk free live odds screen right now. We're seeing Kansas State mostly -10. There are some 9.5s out there. Total sitting 55.5 at most book. The Jayhawks come into this game 2-5 straight up, 1-6 against the spread. We have to call them one of the more disappointing teams in college football. Lance Leopold, yeah, he's a genius. He's a genius. Well, this year we're not hearing his name bandied about nearly as much. That being said, Kansas is coming off, I would say, by far their best game of the season, 48-14 against Houston last week. They were -5 in that game and won by 34 points. They got 220 on the ground, 247 through the air. We like the 200 rushing, 200 passing yards teams. Those are the teams whose offenses are clicking. Those are the teams that we trust to bet on, especially the underdog role. We also like the fact Kansas had 6 sacks last week. We like teams with a pass rush. And it's also worth noting that of their 5 losses, 4 of them have come by 1 score. Illinois, West Virginia, Arizona State, UNLV, all good teams, all competitive games. That being said, Kansas State, 6-1 straight up, but only 3-4 ATS. When we look closer, though, you say they were on the wrong end of a couple of tough decisions. They were -3.5 against Colorado. They won by only 3 on the road against a Buffs team that's better than expected. They won by 37. They were -37 week 1. They won by only 35. You know, at home, they blew out Arizona 31-7. They blew out Oklahoma State 42-20. And, of course, that opening day win by 35. Last week, they throttled West Virginia. Though 3 or 4 West Virginia losses have been by double digits, they do get throttled when they get beat. But the Mountaineers, more first downs in that game, but no quarterback. Kansas has a quarterback. Jalen Daniels' numbers, not as good as they were last year. Already more interceptions than the last 2 years combined and more sacks than last year. So much for being healthy this time around. He is coming off his best game of the year. But I'm telling you, all these points for Kansas, I'm still not getting the window with Kansas with this game. Why? This is a series history that we have to pay attention to. Kansas State is the better of these two teams this year. All right. Kansas covered +7 last year. The previous 4 years, it was all 20-plus point Wildcats wins. Back in the day, Bill Snyder made it a point. When he could, punch in an extra touchdown against Kansas, he did. We've seen the same thing from Chris Kleeman over the years. Wildcats 5-0 straight up under Kleeman, and 4 of those 5 wins. I know Kansas covered +7 last year. The previous 4 were all 20-plus point Wildcat wins and covers. Kleeman's not screwing around. If I'm playing, I'm laying Kansas State minus the points on Saturday night. We appreciate the likes. We appreciate the follows. We appreciate the comments. Thanks for watching. Lawrence, back to you, my friend.
Teddy Covers, let's bring Art DiCesare right in. Art, thoughts on Teddy's big game breakdown, my friend?
Yeah, we opened Kansas State 9.5. We saw Kansas State money, so we went to 10. I mean, it's not a big move, but the initial money was on Kansas State.
There we go. Art DiCesare joining us from the Westgate Superbook, one of the best dudes around. Thanks for taking time out of your day, my friend. Okay, let's get into some betting information. Teddy, I'm going to take apart the Atlanta-Tampa Bay game in my daily presidential address, so I'm going to just make sure it's ready to go. I hand you the microphone.
Well, let's start with this, Art. We'd like to take a look back before we take a look forward. This past weekend, 2 weeks ago, we talked about the worst NFL week of the year. This past weekend in the NFL, we saw all the bigger favorites cover. Was it a good week, a bad week? Talk about how the Westgate Superbook did in week 7 and the bigger results, the bigger decisions this past Sunday and Monday.
Definitely a bounce back week for us, Teddy, no doubt about it. Obviously, when you're talking about one of the worst Sundays maybe ever, like most people were saying, there was nowhere to go but up. So Sunday was a positive. Yeah, I mean, I always tell people because I'll get texts or questions about it. I'm like, listen, guys, I know that was last week, but we move on. Like, we don't dwell on the week before. We don't even dwell on we don't even celebrate on a big week. Not that there isn't a little bit of, all right, we did good, but you just got to move on, man. There's so much going on. And then when you throw more into the fire, NHL has started, NBA is getting going. Obviously we got a big World Series matchup where we're going to have a ton of stuff going for the World Series, Yankees and Dodgers. Like, you just got to have to focus on your daily stuff because it moves quickly and you got a lot of stuff to book and a lot of numbers to put up.
Well, as a bettor, I know this time of the year is the most exciting. It's also the most challenging. Whenever you have many sports going at the same time, it's like you finish one and then you move to the next one and then you move to the next one and then you move to the next one. And this stretch from October through the end of the college football season, in my mind, is the most grueling for a handicapper, at least for me personally. As a bookmaker, do you find that sometimes the odds aren't quite what they should be because you have so much to book, or is that not really ever the case?
I don't think it is. I know you hear that, and that's an old, wives' tale, I guess. But I look at it like this, and once again, I'm leaning on the guys in that room who have been in that room for 20, 25 years. It's a challenge, and it's a fun challenge. We don't copy and paste at the Westgate. We're not just looking at Don Best screen and say, okay, that's what you got up, that's what we're putting up. We're going to put up our stuff and believe in our stuff and believe that we're going to book the right way. So it ends up being a challenge for us, but a fun challenge. So, yeah, there's a lot going on, but it's better to be busy than not to be busy. That's how I look at it. When July comes around, it's not fun when you're just booking baseball. I mean, as much as I love baseball, I love the challenge of an October or November when you got all the sports going.
Well, let's talk about what's going on this weekend. Obviously, NFL and college football still very much on center stage. College football this week. Let's start there. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? Who do the pros like? Who do the Joes like? Anything stand out to you for college football over the next 5 days?
Sure. Let's jump on some of the games that are not Saturday. A game tonight, Liberty, Kennesaw State. We've seen some over money come in, over 46 to over 47. On Friday, BC getting a little bit of love at home. They took the plus 7.5. That's at home against Louisville. It's now 7. Monster game in town. Obviously, it's going to have playoff implications, probably some Heisman implications as well. The UNLV boys game, the total's been really interesting. That's basically been 3 all week, hasn't budged on the side. But we opened 65. We saw the total get as high as 66.5. Now we're back down to 64.5. We're even lower than the original opener. So the real money came in on the under. It got pushed, and it's probably a fake push to the over so they could take the under. We'll need the over in the game now. When you get to Saturday, Baylor took a lot of money, -4, -4.5, against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's got a lot of injury concerns. Same thing, Virginia Tech, -8.5, now -10 against Georgia Tech. Obviously, Haynes Keen for Georgia Tech. Injury concerns there. He's a really good player. Oregon State plus 10.5, now 9.5 at Cal. Saw really good sharp money there. And also saw really good sharp money on San Jose State. Plus 6.5, plus 6, now down to 5 at Fresno. Those are your 4 major sharp moves so far.
Art DiCesare joining us. Art, 2 quick questions, one from me and one from the chat room. My question is, can we get more Art DiCesare on Wednesday? I'll get rid of the second guest. We'll go from Ralph straight to you. That way we can have some more breathing room and get some more incredible information. So let me know by text. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I need more Art DiCesare. It's just the way it works.
I'll answer your question now. You can have more of me.
Boom! Okay. More of Art DiCesare. Art, Michigan State, Michigan. The entire chat room is talking about it. They want to know what to do in this game. And then Teddy can take over again.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. A game that, it's got little cachet because it's obviously a rivalry game, but Michigan's down. Michigan State hasn't been good for a little bit here. This is a game that we really haven't seen much on, to be honest with you. When there's such a big board in college football, even the marquee games sometimes don't get hit. It's kind of the smaller stuff that sees the early action in the week. Now, don't get me wrong, when we get closer to kickoff on Saturday, Friday, Saturday, maybe some of the public people come in, they might play the game, but there's really nothing to report on it yet.
Yeah, Westgate opened Michigan -5. Some books opened Michigan as high as 9.5. That was not a good number, and they have no significant liability on the Spartans for that ball game. Arthur DiCesare, risk management supervisor over at the Westgate Race and Sportsbook here in Las Vegas, at ArtDice21 on Twitter. He is an excellent follow, and he's also someone we love to have on the show. Art, let's shift our focus to the World Series real quick. Anything happening? Where's the action? Dodgers, Mets. We haven't talked about it all week. Let's talk about it here before we shift our focus to NFL.
Yeah, I love that we're going to talk about it, Teddy. Let me just say what we're doing at the Westgate. On games, we're doing 5-cent lines. So we're going to present 5-cent lines. We have Dodgers -120, Yankees +115. We're going to do that. This is a matchup that deserves that. It's going to have all the cachet that you would think it would have. It's going to have a lot of eyeballs, sharp public, everyone. There are going to be times Saturday night that this is going to be on sound over college football. It's just going to be. It's the Yankees and Dodgers. So we're doing 5-cent lines there. Seeing the total creep up. We opened 8 flat. We went to 8.5. We're now 8.5 flat. So we've seen a little bit of over money come in for us. And because of our 5-cent line, we're getting really good two-way action, obviously. So there's really nothing to report that, we're flooded on one side or the other. And then even our series price, we're doing a 10-cent line. We got Dodgers -130, Yankees +120. So that's going to see tremendous two-way action as well. When you look at the future book, we lose a little bit more on the Dodgers. Yankees is kind of like a break-even on the World Series. Dodgers is a bigger loss for us if they end up winning the World Series. But this is something with props and exact totals and MVPs and all the things that we're going to be offering. We're going to see a really good handle on.
Strong info. Art DiCesare breaking down the World Series. NFL, Week 8, Sunday, Thursday, Monday. Who do we got? Who do the pros like? Who do the Joes like? Anything stand out to you?
Yeah, let's start with the Thursday game, obviously, because that's the first one coming up. A little bit of over money came in. Open Rams, Vikings, 46.5. We're now 48. And that's been a 3 all week for us. But just a little bit to the Rams because the majority of the money has come in on the Rams. Not really that sharp money. It's just Ram money has come in. Thursday night team at home. They usually like taking that in that spot. Sharp money is Packers and Jags over. It was 48, now 49.5. Colts +6.5. It's now 6 at the Texans. Browns, they took that healthy number of 10.5 and 10. They're now 9 against the Ravens. Broncos sharp money on the over. 42 at home against the Panthers, now 43.5. And Cardinals +3.5 against the Dolphins. Dolphins are now 3. Public's on 2 teams. They're laying 3 with the Bills at Seattle. And they're taking the points with the Cowboys. They like the Cowboys normally because it's a public team, but they're taking the 4.5 against the banged-up 49ers.
Art DiCesare. What do you like, Art?
NFL, I really don't have much in the NFL. The NFL, I'm more of a teaser guy, so I don't want to throw a teaser out there. It's a little weird to do. But when you look at college football, I do like Stanford at home. I think Wake Forest having to travel across the country. Stanford's not great, but I'm getting 3 points at home with Stanford now that it's moved up to 3. I think Stanford can win the game outright, and I got the backing of 3 points, so I feel good about Stanford.
Art DiCesare, promote something quick, and we got to call it a day.
Well, as always, guys, the Westgate. And the one thing, I know you guys talked NBA, but we're also doing -109 NBA sides all NBA season. So day of game, never on an overnight, but day of the games, we will switch to a -109 NBA on side. So look for that all year, just like our -109 college and our -108 NFL. And as always, come down to the Westgate. If you ever need any help or ask, any questions for anything, app, contest, anything, come down, ask for me. I'll pop out and I'll give you a couple minutes.
Art DiCesare. We'll see you next week, brother. You'll be the second and third guest. Teddy Covers, I've been told by our producer, Daniel, that we do not have time for a daily presidential address. I will do 2 tomorrow. 2 to make up for it. Use that promo code KICK10, everybody, for my 5% play for Sunday. The package is up now. KICK10. Teddy, I love you, bro. Take us home.
Sure, that's going to wrap it for the Wednesday edition of WagerTalk Today. We'll do it again tomorrow, same time, same channel, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Take advantage of the fill your cart promo today. Again, great offers there, great discounts there. Enjoy the games, and best of luck with all your bets.